Yeah, lots of interesting feedback about tonight's show. Some people loved Raw, some hated it. If you're just tuning in, welcome everyone to No DQ Live on NoDQ.com Facebook page, facebook.com/NoDQ, DOTCOM. Also on youtube.com/NoDQCAW on demand. Thank you all for tuning in and watching live. Leave your feedback on the Facebook page, what you thought about Raw. I've seen various comments. Some people thought Raw was a good show. Some thought it was boring. Overall, I thought Raw was very standard. Nothing excellent, nothing terrible. Although I will say the Cruiserweight match was very well done. Good start for the Cruiserweight division despite the Mick Foley botch. Looking at the comments here, definitely some interesting feedback about Raw tonight. Feel free to leave your comments or any questions you have regarding Raw. The main event was Roman Reigns versus Kevin Owens inside a steel cage match. Roman Reigns ended up beating the WWE Universal Champion. After the match, we had Rusev coming out. He locked Reigns inside the steel cage with a steel chain. Seth Rollins came out to make the save for Roman Reigns. He climbed up to the top of the cage and did a huge dive onto Kevin Owens and Rusev. Gareth asks, do you think Kendrick will take the Cruiserweight Classic, or is he just there to put over talent? I would be very surprised if there's a title change at Clash of Champions. I think it's best to establish TJ Perkins as the new champion. I'm expecting Perkins to win. I will be giving my predictions later this week on the NoDQ.com YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, check it out at youtube.com/NoDQCAW or youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ. Got a comment from Anthony. Everything seems to be predictable now. Yeah, that is really my biggest criticism of Raw, and that's just been Raw in general over the past year. It feels like it's the same format every single week. Somebody comes out for a promo, gets interrupted, then there's another interruption, and it leads to a match. Actually, I do not think there were any matches this week with somebody on commentary. It seems like every week there's always a match with somebody doing commentary, unless I missed something, 3-hour show, it's very easy to forget things. I'm not expecting Kendrick to win it. Ellis says that Kendrick can win it, though. I would be very surprised if Kendrick won the title. I think he's basically in the match to help put over TJ Perkins as the new champion going forward. Anthony says TNA, WWE needs a TNA invasion. I'm not expecting that to happen. If WWE did end up buying TNA, I think it would only be to get the tape library, and that would be it. There would be no TNA invasion. I think that's very unlikely that WWE would do a TNA invasion. And look at the WCW one. TNA would be even worse. I really doubt that would happen. Eli says Raw needs a new GM. Yeah, this was not Mick Foley's best night. He did botch the Cruiserweight introduction, and I felt that Foley just didn't really deliver that promo with the passion that you would expect. It sounded like he was really struggling to remember his script rather than just speaking from the heart. And that's what happens when you have a show that's very heavily scripted. Sean says Triple H will interfere in the match on Sunday. I hope so. There has been no Triple H since he cost Seth Rollins the match a few weeks back. And one would think that Triple H would get involved at the pay-per-view, and that would lead to Owens retaining the title, and that sets up Triple H versus Seth Rollins. That would be the most likely outcome of the WWE Universal title match for the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. Let's see some more of these comments here. Eric says, if WWE does buy TNA, what talent could they legit use? I've gotten a lot of questions about this. I think maybe we could see Drew Galloway back in WWE. Maybe we could see Bobby Lashley back in WWE. I think there's only maybe a handful of guys that WWE would pick up. Maybe EC3. I think that most of the guys WWE would not pick up. It would not be like WCW where WWE signed, like, say, a dozen guys. I think maybe 3 or 4 guys would get signed, and that would be it. WWE already has a lot. I apologize if the connection goes out. Your connection is weak. I'm paying for very expensive Wi-Fi and it says your connection is weak. But hopefully you guys can hear me and we do not have any more Wi-Fi problems. Maybe it's Facebook. Who knows? Michael says Rusev versus Roman Reigns will end in a no DQ. That's very interesting. I'm not sure what is going to happen with this match on Sunday. Roman Reigns looked very strong on Raw. He beat the WWE Universal Champion. And that leads me to think that Reigns is going to challenge Owens for the title, which means that it would not make sense for Reigns to win the U.S. title if he's going for the Universal title, unless it's going to be a champion versus champion match. I could see there being some sort of screw job where Rusev wins with shenanigans. Maybe Lana interferes. But it's really going to take a lot to beat Roman Reigns. I mean, Roman Reigns kicked out of the pop-up powerbomb. I know a lot of people on Twitter were upset about that. Looking at some more comments here. Edward says, WWE doesn't need to buy TNA. It's not worth $10 and its current state. I think WWE could get some use out of the tape library, especially when you have guys like Kurt Angle that have had so many great matches in TNA. AJ Styles, you know, the first 10 years plus of his career on a high-profile stage was in TNA, if you refuse to count the brief period that he was in WCW. So yeah, that footage would be very important to WWE, and the footage of guys like Bobby Roode and Samoa Joe. So I think WWE could get some value out of the tape library. Lewis says, would Cesaro versus Owens happen in Hell in the Cell? I doubt it, and that's interesting because the winner of this Cesaro-Sheamus series is supposed to get a title shot, but I'm not so sure we'll see Cesaro in the main event of Hell in the Cell or Survivor Series or whatever, and I'm not even sure they made it clear which title he would be going for. They just say that the winner's going to get a title shot. Does that mean WWE title, the Universal title? Does it mean the Cruiserweight title? Does it mean the Women's title? I mean, I'm not sure they've specified which title the winner gets to go after. From Don, would Abyss have a good run in WWE? I think it's too little too late for Abyss. I think he would have been best off signing maybe a decade ago. There was speculation about him jumping back in like 2004, 2005. Now, I'm not so sure it would make much of a difference. And I'm not really sure if Abyss would fit in today's era in WWE. I just don't know. Matthew says, will the Women's Championship match be as good as WrestleMania? I don't know myself. It has a lot of potential. I think the triple threat match could be a potential show stealer at the Clash of Champions pay-per-view. And I'm really curious to see how this one plays out because we had Bayley taking the fall on Raw. Now, does this mean she will get the title at the pay-per-view and maybe Sasha Banks turns heel and that leads to Bayley versus Sasha? That's definitely a possibility. I'll talk more about this later this week when I do the predictions video for Clash of Champions. Make sure you're subscribed. You can watch this video on demand as well as all the other videos at youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ or youtube.com/NoDQCAW. Thank you all for tuning in. If this is your first time watching, thank you guys for checking it out. And if you enjoyed this video, again, check out the YouTube channel, subscribe. Got more videos coming up this week, predictions, and so much more. Ricardo says, with Jack Swagger already going to SmackDown, could we see more stars swapping brands already? I think that it's a good idea when you do it every once in a while. You can do something like a trade or have somebody switch brands when he really has no momentum. But I would not make it a habit of doing it often. If they start switching guys more than once a month, I think that that's doing it too much. Kevin says, you skipped my comment. These comments are coming in so quickly, so I apologize if I miss your comment. Just keep trying to send it in. Hopefully I'll be able to catch it. Why is Raw obsolete? Because they do not have Matt Hardy. Simple as that. They need Broken Matt. What can I say? Brian says, do you think Raw will debut the women's tag team titles? That would not surprise me, but I think it's overkill. I think there's enough championships right now as it is. I really do not think that there's enough depth for a women's tag team division. That's just my opinion. Luis says, I would bet on Emma or Paige on that. Not sure what he was talking about exactly there. Sean says, I heard The Miz was coming to Raw after the fallout with Daniel Bryan after his contract negotiation. Apparently that has been resolved according to a Twitter post, and I guess we'll find out on SmackDown what's going on with that. That's another possibility. The Miz, I like the storyline, but I'm not so sure about it playing out on social media. I think that they should focus on doing the storyline on SmackDown when you actually have millions of people watching it. I mean, with the social media stuff, it's very easy to miss the tweets or whatever. So I'm not a huge fan of that, but they're trying to change things up a little bit and do some storylines on social media, which is fine every now and then. But fans could end up being confused and missing some of the key moments. Cody says, I miss Billy Kidman, 7-year itch. Yeah, I'm not sure about Billy Kidman. Maybe one day he could come back, who knows, and maybe he could even get involved in a cruiserweight storyline. Maybe he could mentor somebody. I think that would be a nice touch to bring back somebody like Kidman to put over one of the young cruiserweights, maybe in a mentor type role. I think that would be a good idea. Eric says, why doesn't WWE go against Triple Threat or New Japan or AAA, he said. WWE sees UFC as their competition, or really any entertainment or sports promotion WWE sees as competition. Actually, they really don't like to publicly say that UFC is competition, just because UFC gets such high pay-per-view buy rates, and WWE has the network, so it's a bit of a different situation now where WWE is doing the network. But yeah, WWE in general considers everyone to be competition. They're not in competition with New Japan or AAA. They're just in competition with any form of entertainment or sports. BJ says, I missed it. This one comes from Blake. Who has the better theme song right now, Bobby Roode or Nakamura? Man, you're putting me on the spot here. I mean, I think I would say Bobby Roode. I love that theme song, but Nakamura is like right there at the top of the best themes in WWE right now. I mean, both entrances were incredible at that NXT pay-per-view. You guys go ahead and leave a comment which one you prefer, Nakamura or Bobby Roode. Maybe I'll even put up a poll on NoDQ.com, seeing what you guys think. I mean, to me, it's really close. Bobby says WWE is so boring now. I mean, the problem with Raw, not just that it's 3 hours, it's the same format every single week. You have somebody come out, cut a promo, people come out, interrupt things, and matches are made, and you have the same matches almost every week. I mean, the thing I really liked on Raw this week was the Cruiserweight match, because it was something different. And I like the fact that we're seeing something we haven't seen in previous weeks, or even with the Cruiserweight division, many years. I mean, really since Hornswoggle was the last Cruiserweight champion. So it's nice to see some different things on Raw, and I hope in the future they'll consider changing up the format of the show and doing some different things and just give us something different. I mean, when we're able to predict every segment, it does get really stale, and it would be nice to see a change of pace and changing the show's format. When is Chris Benoit coming back? Why did I even read that? I have no idea. Clifton says he found Raw boring. Eric says Cesaro and Sheamus is lame. RJ asks, any update on The Rock at WrestleMania 33? At this point, it's too early to tell. It really depends on what The Rock's schedule is for WrestleMania. Will he be busy with a movie? If not, then I think there's definitely a chance of him coming back for another match. Maybe he'll do the match with Triple H. Maybe he'll do the match with Brock Lesnar that's been talked about for years. I think it really depends on Rock's schedule. I think if he's available and he can get the time to physically prepare for a match, then I think we'll see him in a match. But, it's a big question mark with his schedule. Sean says, should the commentators have more freedom when calling matches? I would say so. I think that everybody that is a performer on the show, whether it's a wrestler or a commentator, I think they all should have a little bit more creative freedom and not have to go so strictly by the script. That's one of the big problems with with Raw and WWE in general over the years. It's just that everything feels so overly scripted and overly choreographed. Like this week when you have Jericho coming out, reading off the lists, then you have all the tag teams come out, then you have Sami Zayn come out, and they all start fighting, and it turns into a 10-man tag team match. It all felt just so choreographed and staged, and I miss the days when the show felt like it was out of control and what you were watching was not scripted. To me, the best wrestling is when you're unable to tell what's real and what's not real. When the lines are blurred and it's done effectively, so it makes for entertaining television and you're questioning what you're watching and you're able to suspend disbelief. I mean, that's really important to me. Just like if you're watching a movie, the ability to suspend disbelief when you're watching something. And Matthew says, what do you think of a Rollins versus Triple H match at WrestleMania 33? I like the idea. I think it's definitely a possibility. The thing is, with this storyline really starting to build up now, will they be able to drag it out until WrestleMania 33 and keep it entertaining? That's the big question. I mean, we still have quite a ways to go until WrestleMania, and I'm not sure if WWE can pull that off and drag it out that long and keep fans invested in it. That would be quite the task for WWE to do that. But yeah, that would make sense for next year's WrestleMania. Eric says, I read that WWE should give the wrestlers bullet points. Do you agree? Yeah, I think that would definitely be more effective. And that's what they used to do years ago, where guys would have bullet points. And apparently some people, like some of the top guys, do go out there with bullet points. But yeah, I've seen some of the recent Raw scripts. And for most guys, even some of the top guys, it's almost word for word when they go out there with the promos. And I think that was one of the problems with Foley's promo. Instead of him being able to speak from the heart, he has to recite these lines, about Mark Twain and all that stuff. And, he just stuttered and just completely messed up the entire promo. This one comes from Brian. What if Big E won the 2017 Royal Rumble? That would definitely be a huge shock. I'm not expecting that to happen. I think it's unlikely, but yeah, that would be a big surprise, if the New Day broke up and in January Big E got a big push. But again, I'm not expecting that to happen. When I look at the top matches for WrestleMania, Brock Lesnar will be in the mix, Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, probably Finn Balor. All those guys are going to be in the top matches. It's not looking like Big E's in any kind of long-term planning to be in the WrestleMania main event. But yeah, that would be a nice surprise. It would be a nice change of pace for somebody completely unexpected to win the Royal Rumble, somebody who's not seen as one of the top guys going into WrestleMania winning the whole thing. DDP needs to come to SmackDown. I just want to see more of DDP Yoga in general. I mean, that's the one thing I liked about Holy Foley was that DDP Yoga segment. So anytime we can squeeze a DDP appearance on Raw in some sort of cameo or whatever, I'm all for it. Who do you think is the best heel in the company right now? Jericho. Jericho was tremendous this week. I love that segment he did with the list, and he's the best heel. I mean, I think he's doing tremendous. Kevin Owens is doing great too. I love how he was sticking to the heel role despite the fans booing Roman Reigns, trying to escape the cage right off the bat, which is what a heel should do, act like a coward. Although some people feel that Owens should be more of a badass champion rather than a cowardly champion. I know, there's mixed thoughts about that, but, in cage matches, I like it when the heel tries to escape and the face is there to kick some ass and the bad guy wants to get away. I mean, that's just, very straightforward storytelling, good versus evil, the bad guy trying to take the shortcuts. And, it does make sense. I mean, I liked Corey Graves' comment about Owens, trying to get the win there because he has to defend his title at the pay-per-view, and really that's more important. So, I think Graves did a good job explaining that, and, the commentary's been better. I definitely feel Corey Graves has added to the Raw commentary team. Could Lesnar return this Sunday? Probably not. He's got the house show match with Randy Orton, and I'm not sure who you would put Lesnar against unless WWE's going to do another Orton versus Lesnar match, maybe at No Mercy, but I'm not expecting that. I think it's more likely that we will see Brock Lesnar return maybe around the Royal Rumble, that time, maybe Survivor Series. If Lesnar was going to come back before January, he would come back for Survivor Series, since WWE's trying to make that a Big Four pay-per-view again, reestablish it as a Big Four pay-per-view. Will Goldberg show up on Sunday as predicted? Again, probably not. If there's any plan to do Goldberg versus Lesnar, I think that Goldberg would be better off coming back around the Rumble. Bring both of those guys back for WrestleMania season. It's way too early to bring back Goldberg now if he's going to do a match at WrestleMania. I know Sting appeared at Survivor Series, and even that was maybe a bit too soon. He showed up and then disappeared and then came back for WrestleMania season. So I think if Goldberg's going to appear, it would be closer to WrestleMania. How will they display the cruiserweights different, since half of the roster does high-flying styles? Well, these guys took it to even a more extreme level on Raw. I mean, we were seeing these guys doing all sorts of crazy things. That match was very impressive. Those guys went all out. And, I think that we're going to just see the cruiserweights doing all sorts of amazing stunts. I mean, it was a spectacle. I mean, that's the best way to describe that match. It was a true spectacle. What's your opinion on the recent progress of The Miz as a top-level player on SmackDown? I think The Miz has been doing great, and that promo on Daniel Bryan was fantastic from a few weeks back, but I would be very surprised, again, if The Miz gets a main event push. I think that he's going to be in the position he's in. He's doing great as IC champion, but as far as him becoming one of SmackDown's top players, I think it's unlikely that happens. But, I think there are a lot of guys that if they were given the opportunity to do that worked shoot, they would pull it off really well. There's a lot of guys, I'm sure, that have these frustrations built up inside, and if they were able to go out there on live TV and express their feelings, like a CM Punk type promo, like the pipe bomb, I think a lot of guys would be able to deliver a very good, passionate promo like what Miz did a few weeks back. Why do you think Triple H turned on Rollins? Hard to answer when I'm not even sure if WWE knows why Triple H turned on Rollins. They may still be trying to figure out what the storyline is going to be for that. Is Triple H going to be a bad guy, or is Stephanie going to be the bad woman? I mean, who knows what's going to happen with that. It's all a big question mark right now. I'm not even sure WWE knows the reason. What is better right now, Raw or SmackDown? From Tristan. Easily SmackDown. I mean, with the exception of the big Raw here and there where they do the Universal title match or there's some big match they're doing. Overall, SmackDown has definitely been the stronger show. But then again, it's only 2 hours. So SmackDown has that advantage over Raw being a shorter show. Aaron O'Brien, now that CM Punk is gone, what wrestler on the roster would you say would be a good opponent for a Stone Cold return if it ever happened? That's a tough question because I think it's very unlikely Austin ever wrestles again. I think that door is pretty much closed. Let's just say for argument's sake, if Austin did return, I'd like to see Austin versus Kevin Owens. I think that would be a great match, and that's somebody that Austin has never faced. I think I would like to see Austin face somebody he's never been in the ring with before. So whether it's Austin versus Owens or Austin versus Rollins, so one of the top guys that Austin has not faced in the past. Maybe even Austin versus Cena. You want to do the dream match. That would be one that would be very memorable. Bring back Paul London, says Brian M. Huff. Never say never. With Kendrick back, I mean, who knows? Maybe one day you'll have London and Kendrick reunite. And, I think WWE missed an opportunity. When the New Day was close to breaking the record, they could have brought back London and Kendrick to try and stop them from breaking their record. But that did not happen. So I think it's unlikely London comes back. But yeah, that's always something that could happen down the line, especially if Kendrick's run is very successful on Monday Night Raw as part of the Cruiserweights. Eric says, when are you planning a Chicago trip? Maybe the next time WWE does a pay-per-view. I'd really like to do a Chicago WWE pay-per-view and do the NoDQ meetup in Chicago. I was originally going to do that this year with the, I believe, was it Payback or Extreme Rules? One of those pay-per-views. I think it was Payback. in Chicago, but things fell through. Maybe 2017, NoDQ.com trip to Chicago. That would be awesome. Big pizza party and whatnot. Elias says, John Morrison, oh, he's just making a comment to somebody. Matthew says, will CM Punk ever come back? To UFC, maybe. WWE, maybe one day. I think he will be back. If I had to make a bet on it, I'd say one day we see CM Punk in a WWE ring again. Just, I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. Where is Paige? Somewhere with Alberto Del Rio, most likely. What is your favorite WrestleMania match? Austin versus Bret Hart, WrestleMania 13. In my opinion, the greatest professional wrestling match of all time. That's my number one because that's the match that really put Austin's career on the map. And that is the match I feel that started the turnaround of the WWF in the Monday Night Wars against WCW and led to the biggest era in the history of the business with the Attitude Era. That match was really critical in establishing Steve Austin and getting him over with the fan base and putting him over as the next big superstar. So, that match was just tremendous. Best double turn ever, making Bret Hart a heel and Austin a face. I love that match. Everything about it to me was, perfect storytelling and, very, very important in wrestling history. Are fans starting to turn on Ambrose like they did with Roman Reigns? I just feel the way WWE booked Ambrose did some damage to his character. I think that Ambrose himself has been delivering. I think the problem is that his character has been watered down, and I think that he needs to be given more creative freedom. He's one of those guys that could benefit from being allowed to do his own thing, maybe turn him heel, let him just go out there with the chains off, and he has the freedom to say what he wants, and let him be controversial. I mean, he's supposed to be this Brian Pillman-like character, but it's like a watered-down version of Brian Pillman. If Dean Ambrose could really go crazy and take crazy to a whole new level, then we could really see that character reach its full potential. He's just like a very watered-down crazy. Is WWE underutilizing Sami Zayn? I think Sami Zayn should be towards the top. I mean, maybe not the WWE champion. I'm not expecting him to ever be at that level where they're going to make him the face of the company. But, I mean, he's certainly a close to top tier guy, upper mid card. He's always got to be right there at the top, in my opinion. Just one of the best performers in the entire industry. I've always been a fan of him going back to PWG back in 2006, 2007. That guy is incredible. Sting versus Taker, is that still possible? I don't think so. I think Sting's done, and I think that match should have been done 2011 when people were really hyped up about it. Now, I mean, just not a good idea with both guys as broken down as they are. Undertaker really needs somebody who can carry him at this point. He had Shane McMahon to take that crazy bump at WrestleMania this year. Undertaker needs somebody who's going to really go the distance. And, as much as I like Sting, I mean, he's not the guy. Even if he could do one more match, I think him and Taker would really struggle to put on a really good match, with both guys being at their ages. Just, I think it's too late. I think it's too late to do that. Antoinette Log says, just wanted to say, love your site, and you're doing a great job, but quit hating on Roman. Again, I have no problem with Roman Reigns, the person. I'm strictly talking about the character, which I feel is stale, and I feel that he would have been better off turning heel several months back. And, I just think the character needs to change. I mean, WWE should just go in a different direction with the character. Trying to make him John Cena 2.0 hasn't been working. And I think that he could be way more successful with a significant character change. Look at what happened with The Rock. When The Rock went heel, he got bigger and more successful than anybody could imagine. When the New Day went heels, they really started to take off and were so popular that they could organically become baby faces, which was what WWE was trying to do with them in the first place. So, with Roman Reigns, I could see him turning heel and just really developing his character and getting over at a whole new level to where he could organically be the top babyface. I mean, I think you have to try it. And I'm starting to feel that they've missed the boat. Like with Cena, I think a Cena heel turn is too late now. And I feel like it's starting to get that way with Reigns, where now if he turns, people are not going to care as much as they would have, say, 6 months ago. Who would you rather see turn heel, Cena or Reigns? Reigns, because I think it's too late with Cena. I really feel there's no point now in turning Cena. They should have done that 3 or 4 years ago. With Reigns, I feel there's still time. I feel they're running out, and I feel time's running out, and they should do it as soon as possible. Ricky Lawson says, thoughts on Adam Cole and should WWE sign him? From what I've seen of him, he's really good as well. He's another guy that I think will end up in WWE. I mean, when I look at the guys on the indies that WWE should sign next, I think Adam Cole's on that list. The Young Bucks definitely. And Kenny Omega, he's another guy I think will end up in WWE within the next few years. And Ricochet. I mean, those are the guys that I would expect to see in WWE in the next year or two. Has the club gotten stale? Yeah, I'm starting to feel that way. I feel like the club has really not reached their full potential. And I think those guys, I feel the ball was dropped on them back in April or May. I think when they first debuted at the Staples Center on that Raw, you know, they were coming in as these outsiders. I think that should have been the storyline with them. They should have been outsiders, and they should have done like a modern day version of Hall and Nash. And instead, they just lost right away and were just guys on the roster. I think that they could have been something special. WWE could have done a new version of the Outsiders angle, and that would have been way more effective for those guys than doing the comedy skits. And that segment a few weeks back, I mean, that really, really soured me on the whole New Day versus Club feud. The thing with the old day, I mean, that was just awful. What's up with TNA? I mean, I'm not sure if that's a question about TNA and if they're being sold or not. I have no idea what's going on with TNA. I mean, at this point, they have Bound for Glory. They have television tapings scheduled for after Bound for Glory. So one would think for the rest of the year, as long as they have the Pop TV deal, TNA should continue to exist. And every time people predict the demise of TNA, they somehow manage to stay in business. As I've said, I think TNA has a good chance of outliving us all at this point. They always manage to survive, and it's not like I'm rooting for TNA to go out of business. I mean, it would really suck for people at this point. All right, the video apparently just went out for a second here. I apologize if it cut out and you missed it. I hope TNA can survive and rebrand and people can keep their jobs. You know, I'm not a fan of people losing their jobs. I would like to see TNA succeed as much as the next person. But realistically, I don't feel there's much hope for them. And that's just me being realistic. Who would be good to push the Bray Wyatt character? I'm not sure what you mean by that question. I just feel Bray Wyatt should turn babyface. I think that would be the best way to give him a second chance in WWE. And, you know, the fans want to cheer the guy. He has a cool entrance, and the people are already cheering him. You know, I think back to when Undertaker turned face back in '92. Same thing with Bray Wyatt. Turn him face and make him a phenom. Make him the new phenom. And let him be a babyface character. I think that's the next step for Bray Wyatt. I think him being a heel is played out. And this whole thing of him coming out and cutting promos on people and losing matches to these people, it's just not doing him any favors. Should TNA sign Russo? If anybody's going to sign Russo, it should be WWE, just so I can be more entertained by Raw. I mean, I want Russo in WWE for selfish reasons. Not that I think he would be good for business in any fashion, but I think Raw would be a much more entertaining show if Vince Russo was writing it. I'd rather see a train wreck than a boring show. That's just my opinion. Broken Matt, one of the best characters of all time. I think Broken Matt is great. I think that Matt Hardy is really stepping it up and thinking outside the box, and I like that. I encourage that. I encourage people being able to think outside the box and be creative. And unfortunately, I'm sure there's a lot of people in WWE that could think outside the box and have the ability. They're just not given that chance to do something creative and do something different and go into business for themselves. Hardy's clearly just doing whatever he wants to do, and it's been entertaining. I mean, what can I say? It's very weird and unusual, and not exactly something you can really suspend your disbelief to. That stuff with Decay, it was just very over the top and very cheesy, but I mean, it's entertaining. I will say that, and again, I'd rather be entertained than watch something that's boring. So it is what it is. Is Kane underappreciated? I think Kane is fairly well appreciated. I think if anybody's underappreciated, it's Big Show. We're talking about the big guys. Big Show's had a 20-plus year career, and I think the fans have really crapped on him for a lot of those 20 years. I think Big Show's had a lot of very entertaining moments over the years, and he's done some impressive things. I mean, he's a guy that during his prime was doing drop kicks off the top rope, and he took some crazy bumps over the years, despite what people think about him, that he's slow and he doesn't do anything. He had some great athletic ability for a guy his size, and he cut some good promos over the years, and he was involved in some memorable skits and moments. I do feel people underappreciate him a little bit. John Cena versus Undertaker. That's certainly a possibility for next year's WrestleMania. Time will tell. I feel that would be a good match to do. But again, time's running out. I think with The Undertaker getting older, I think you really need to strike the iron when it's hot. And I would do it next year if both guys are healthy. And, that would definitely be a top match for WrestleMania. That would be a match that you could build the show around. Mark Henry also underappreciated. Yeah, I would say so too about Mark Henry. I think that he has definitely been one of those guys that has gotten a bad rep over the years. That fake retirement he did with John Cena, I mean, that proved Mark Henry really had some great acting ability, and people think of him with the sexual chocolate. And part of the problem is he got hurt so much. He was injured and missed several years and then would come back and get injured again. And, it was hard for him to really gain momentum over a lengthy period of time. Is Undertaker the most respected wrestler ever? I mean, from what I've heard, he's certainly one of the most respected. And how can you not respect the guy for everything he's done over the years? He was one of the most loyal guys to WWE. He did not jump ship to WCW during the Monday Night War. And people basically saw him as a locker room leader. He was among the top most respected guys, and very much earned the respect that he has from people, not just the wrestlers, but the fans, really everybody. I mean, Undertaker is one of the true class acts in the wrestling industry. Do you think Lesnar versus Owens is appealing? If Owens was booked like a badass, now if he keeps running away in cage matches, he's not really the guy that you want to put against Brock Lesnar. But, if they build him up as a badass and he wins some matches clean on pay-per-view against the top baby faces, then yeah, I would be cool with seeing Owens versus Brock Lesnar. What do you think about the Braun Strowman gimmick? It's fine for what it is. I mean, I'm not expecting it to have any type of long-term longevity, but I think it's fine for what it is right now. And just him coming out there and destroying people, I'm fine with it. To me, it's not that big of a deal one way or another. He's just basically there. But I will say I'm entertained by the squash matches. Even Sin Cara getting destroyed, I found to be entertaining. So, yeah, I'm okay with it. So, one more time here, NoDQ.com. NoDQ.com will have you covered for the WWE Clash of Champions pay-per-view. And subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, if you're watching it for the first time, thank you for checking it out. Subscribe. You can check out all the other videos at youtube.com/AaronRiftNoDQ or Aaron Rift. That's my personal channel, actually. Aaron Rift is the personal channel. Aaron Rift No DQ is the wrestling channel. And you can also access the wrestling channel at youtube.com/NoDQCAW. That will do it for this edition of No DQ Live. Thank you all for checking it out. And also go on twitter.com/NoDQDOTCOM for live tweets. I know some of you love the tweets. Some of you hate the tweets, but I try to go out there and give my honest opinion every week. And some people think my tweets are idiotic, whatever. The fact is, people care about the tweets, so must be doing something right. Thank you guys for watching. That'll do it for this edition.